Maya Williams walked through the crowded corridors of Westbrook Academy, with her lunch tray held carefully in both hands, trying not to bump into the rushing students around her. She was the new student, just transferred to this fancy school 3 weeks ago, and she still felt like an outsider in these polished hallways with their shiny lockers and expensive uniforms. Her mother worked as a maid at the school, cleaning offices and classrooms after the students went home. Maya's father had passed away 2 years ago, and money was always tight. When her mother got the job at Westbrook, Maya was offered a scholarship to study there. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance at a better future, but fitting in was harder than she thought. Maya made her way to the cafeteria, where hundreds of students sat at long tables eating lunch, laughing, and talking. She scanned the room for a quiet corner where she could sit alone without drawing attention. That was when she heard the shouting. Near the back of the cafeteria, by the large windows that looked out onto the school gardens, she saw Liam. He was a boy in her English class, maybe 13 years old like her. Liam had cerebral palsy and used a walker to move around. He was struggling to carry his lunch tray, his hands shaking slightly as he tried to balance it while managing his walker. Standing in his way were 4 other students. They were laughing, mean laughing, not the kind of laughing that made you feel happy. The tallest boy, who wore an expensive designer jacket, blocked Liam's path. "Hey, look at him," the tall boy said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Mr. Robot is trying to walk. Can you even do it without falling down?" The other 3 boys laughed loudly. People at nearby tables turned to watch. Some of them joined in the laughing. Liam's face turned red, and he stopped moving, frozen in place like a frightened animal. Maya felt something hot rise inside her chest. She recognized that feeling. It was anger, the kind of anger that made you want to do something, anything to make it stop. She didn't think about it. She just walked over. "Excuse me," Maya said, placing her tray down on a nearby table. Her voice was quiet but clear. "You need to let him pass." The tall boy turned to look at her. His eyes were cold and empty, like they had been trained not to feel anything. He looked her up and down, taking in her simple clothes, her braided hair, her dark skin. "Oh, look who it is," he said with a cruel smile. "The maid's daughter. Did Mommy send you down here to clean up after we eat? Because we're not done playing yet." His friends laughed again, louder this time. More students stopped eating to watch the scene unfold. Maya stepped forward. "Liam needs to get to his seat. Move out of his way." The boy's face changed. He was not used to being told what to do, especially not by a girl he did not even know, not by a poor girl whose mother cleaned his school. He stepped forward too, so they were standing face to face, just a few feet apart. "What are you going to do about it?" he asked. There was something dark and dangerous in his voice now. "My father is the richest man in this city. He gives money to this school. Nobody tells me what to do, especially not you." Liam stood behind him, completely still, his eyes wide and scared. Maya's heart was beating very fast. She could have walked away. Nobody would have blamed her. The smart thing would have been to turn around, walk back to her table, and pretend she had not seen anything. That was what most people would have done. But Maya thought about her father. He had been a kind man who always stood up for people who could not stand up for themselves. He used to tell her, "Being strong is not about hitting harder than everyone else. It is about having the courage to do what is right, even when everyone is watching and waiting for you to fail." Maya did not back down. "I am not moving," she said, her voice steady and calm. "You can move or Liam can move past you. Those are your choices." For a moment, the tall boy did nothing. Then his face twisted with rage. He raised his hand and shoved Maya hard in the chest. She stumbled backward, nearly falling over. That was when everything changed. The entire cafeteria seemed to freeze for a single moment, as if everyone had stopped breathing at the same time. Maya stumbled backward from the shove, her hands reaching out to steady herself against a nearby chair. She caught her balance just before falling. But the damage was already done. The boy had pushed a girl in front of hundreds of witnesses. The tall boy's name was Adrian Matthews, and he came from one of the richest families in the entire city. His father was a billionaire who owned multiple companies, hotels, and real estate across 3 countries. Adrian had never been told no in his entire life. Everything he wanted, he received. Every mistake he made, his parents covered up with money and lawyers. He had never faced real consequences for anything. When Adrian saw that Maya had caught herself and was still standing, his face turned even darker with anger. He was not used to people who did not immediately crumble or cry or apologize to him. He was not used to strength from people he considered below him. "You pushed me," Maya said, her voice shaking slightly with adrenaline but still holding its courage. "In front of all these people, you pushed me." Adrian laughed, a cold, sharp sound that echoed across the cafeteria. "So what?" he said, spreading his arms wide. "What are you going to do? Run to your mother? Tell her the mean rich boy hurt your feelings? This is what happens when poor people like you try to act tough." His 3 friends moved in closer, surrounding Maya in a loose circle. They were feeding off Adrian's cruelty, getting braver because they thought there was safety in numbers. One of them, a boy named Connor with red hair and freckles, stepped forward and knocked Maya's lunch tray off the table. It clattered to the floor, spilling food everywhere. Rice, curry, and sauce scattered across the white tile floor. Maya watched. Her lunch, the lunch her mother had carefully prepared that morning before work, spread across the ground. That lunch represented her mother's love, her effort, her attempt to make sure her daughter was eating well despite their limited money. Seeing it destroyed like garbage made something inside Maya break open, but she did not cry. Instead, she felt something else rise up inside her. It was not anger anymore, it was clarity, a clear understanding of who these boys were and what they truly represented. "You know what your problem is?" Maya said, her voice now completely calm and steady. "You think money makes you better than other people? You think that because your father is rich, it means you are special. But you are not special. You are just mean, and mean people never stay happy for very long." Adrian's face went pale with shock. No one spoke to him like this. Ever. In his entire privileged life, no one had ever looked him in the eye and told him the truth about himself. "How dare you?" he started, but Maya interrupted him. "I dare because you are hurting someone who cannot defend himself," she said, pointing to Liam, who was still standing frozen with his walker, his eyes filled with tears. "That boy never did anything to you. He just wanted to eat his lunch. But you had to prove how powerful you are by destroying someone weaker than you. That is not power. That is cowardice." Around them, the cafeteria had gone almost completely silent. Students were recording on their phones. Whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. Nobody had ever spoken to Adrian Matthews this way before. Connor moved toward Maya, his fists clenched. "You better shut your mouth before..." "Before what?" Maya said, not moving an inch. "Before you push me again? Before you knock my lunch on the ground? I do not care anymore. You can do whatever you want, but it will not change the truth about who you are." Adrian's jaw clenched, and his hands curled into fists. His expensive shoes made sharp sounds against the tile floor as he stepped closer to Maya. The space between them grew smaller and smaller. The air felt thick and dangerous, like the moment before a storm arrives. Teachers were starting to notice now. Some were moving toward the crowd, trying to see what was happening, but they were still too far away to stop what came next. "You are nothing," Adrian said, his voice low and poisonous. "Your mother is nothing. Your family is nothing. You should not even be allowed to walk through the same halls as people like us." Maya did not respond with words. Instead, she simply looked at him, really looked at him, and in that moment, Adrian saw something in her eyes that frightened him. He saw someone who was not afraid of him, someone who understood that his money and his family name meant absolutely nothing in the face of genuine strength and character. That was when Adrian made his decision, a decision that would change everything. In the next 30 seconds, he raised both his hands and shoved Maya backward with all his strength. This time, he was not holding back. Adrian's hands connected with Maya's shoulders with tremendous force. She flew backward like she had been hit by a truck. Her body crashed through the air, completely out of her control. For a moment, she was weightless, suspended between the tables and chairs of the cafeteria, completely helpless. But Maya had not grown up without learning how to survive difficult situations. Her father had taught her self-defense when she was just 10 years old, not because he wanted her to be violent, but because he wanted her to be safe. He had taught her that the body has natural reactions, instincts that kick in when danger comes, and knowing how to use those instincts could save your life. As she fell backwards, something in Maya's mind activated. It was pure muscle memory, pure survival instinct. Her body twisted midair, and instead of landing flat on her back like Adrian had planned, she managed to brace herself. Her hands came up, and she used the momentum of her fall to roll away from the impact. She crashed into a metal chair instead of hitting her head on the edge of a table. The chair scraped loudly across the floor, creating a sound that echoed through the entire cafeteria like a scream. Pain shot through her shoulder and arm, but it was nothing compared to what could have happened. Adrian was shocked. He had expected Maya to go down hard, to cry out in pain, to beg for mercy. He had expected her to be broken by his attack. But instead, she was already moving, already getting back to her feet. What happened next was even more surprising. As Adrian came toward her again, his face twisted with rage, his fists ready to throw another punch. He did not notice that Maya was no longer running away. She was not trying to escape. She was standing her ground, and more importantly, she was using everything her father had taught her. When Adrian swung at her, she sidestepped. Her body moved with a grace and precision that shocked everyone watching. Adrian's punch missed her completely, and the momentum of his swing combined with his own aggression sent him spinning around. He lost his balance, his expensive designer shoes slipping on the cafeteria floor. Adrian tried to catch himself, his arms windmilled as he desperately searched for something to grab. He stumbled forward, completely out of control. His body was moving faster than his mind could process what was happening. He was falling, and he could not stop it. His head came down toward the hard edge of a metal cafeteria table with terrifying speed. There was nothing Maya could do to stop it now. She had only defended herself, only protected her own body from his attack. What happened next was not her fault. The sound was horrible, a wet, sickening crack that made people in the cafeteria wince. Adrian's forehead collided with the metal edge of the table. Blood immediately began pouring from the wound, running down his face like a river. His nose started bleeding too, the pain so intense that he could not even scream at first. For a moment there was absolute silence in the cafeteria. Everyone stood frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. The richest boy in school, the most powerful boy, the one who had bullied so many people, was lying on the ground bleeding, and it had happened in front of hundreds of witnesses. Then Adrian screamed. A sound of pure pain and shock and humiliation all mixed together. He screamed like he had never experienced real pain before in his entire life. Which was probably true. His hands flew to his face, and when he saw the blood on his palms, he screamed even louder. "Help me," he cried out, his voice cracking and desperate. "Somebody help me. Call my father. Call an ambulance. I am bleeding." His 3 friends rushed to him, but they did not know what to do. They had never seen Adrian hurt before. They had never seen him vulnerable or weak. One of them started crying. Another pulled out his phone to call for help. Connor just stood there, his mouth open, unable to move or speak. The teachers finally pushed through the crowd. A female teacher named Mrs. Patterson rushed to Adrian with tissues. Trying to stop the bleeding, she looked at him with concern, but also with something else. A question, a doubt about what she had really seen. "What happened?" she asked, looking from Adrian to Maya. "What happened here?" Adrian pointed at Maya with a shaking hand, blood dripping from his chin onto his expensive jacket. "She attacked me," he gasped, his voice high and panicked. "That girl attacked me for no reason. She came at me and I was just defending myself. She is crazy." But the story did not match what people had seen. There were whispers, doubts, questions spreading through the crowd of students. Some of them had seen the truth. Some of them had seen Adrian shove her first. Some of them had seen him swing at her. Other witnesses, however, had only seen the end result. They had only seen Adrian bleeding on the ground and Maya standing nearby. And in that moment, confusion began to settle over the entire cafeteria like a fog. The truth and the lie became tangled together. And nobody knew anymore which was which. Maya stood completely still, watching everything unfold around her. She knew what she had done. She knew she had only defended herself. But she also knew that nobody might believe her. Nobody might care that Adrian had attacked first. The story that Adrian Matthews told spread through Westbrook Academy like wildfire. Within 2 hours, almost every student had heard the official version of what happened in the cafeteria. According to Adrian and his 3 friends, Maya had suddenly attacked him without any reason. They claimed she had been angry and jealous of his family's wealth. They said she had come at him aggressively, pushing and hitting him, and that Adrian had only tried to defend himself. The boys had coordinated their story carefully. They knew that if they stuck together and told the same version repeatedly, people would believe them. After all, it was 4 boys against 1 girl. 4 wealthy boys against a poor girl whose mother was just a maid. The odds were completely in their favor. Adrian lay in the school nurse's office with bandages on his forehead and nose. His parents had been called immediately within 30 minutes. Both of his parents arrived at the school in their expensive cars. His mother was crying and acting like her son was nearly dead. His father was already on the phone with lawyers threatening to sue the school, sue Maya, sue everyone if his son was not fully compensated for his injuries. The school's principal, Dr. Harrison, felt the pressure immediately. Adrian's father was a major donor to the school. He gave large amounts of money every year. He sat on the board of directors. He had influence, and he was not afraid to use it. When Adrian's father walked into his office with his expensive suit and angry expression, Dr. Harrison's legs actually shook. "My son was attacked by one of your students," Adrian's father said, his voice cold and commanding. "A violent student who should not be allowed in this school. I want her expelled immediately, and I want compensation for my son's medical expenses and emotional trauma." Dr. Harrison nodded nervously. "Of course, Mr. Matthews. We will investigate the incident thoroughly." "There is nothing to investigate," Adrian's father interrupted. "My son and his friends have already told you exactly what happened. That girl attacked him. 4 reliable witnesses say so. Are you calling my son a liar?" The principal's face turned red. He knew better than to argue with Adrian's father. Besides, the version of events that Adrian had presented was the one that made the most sense to people in positions of power. It was easier to believe that a poor girl had randomly attacked a rich boy than to believe that a rich boy would attack a poor girl who was simply trying to help another student. While Adrian's parents were meeting with the school administration, Maya sat in a small office with 3 other teachers. None of them were looking her in the eye. They were treating her like she was already guilty, like the investigation was just a formality before they punished her. "We have received statements from 4 students who witnessed the incident," one of the teachers, Mr. Rodriguez, said, reading from a piece of paper. "They all say that you attacked Adrian Matthews without any provocation. They say you pushed him and hit him. Is that true?" "No," Maya said, her voice steady but small. "Adrian pushed me first. I was just defending myself. I was trying to help Liam, who was being bullied." "Liam Williams?" another teacher interrupted. "He was not present at the incident, according to the witnesses. He was already sitting at a table when you attacked Adrian." That was a lie. Maya knew it was a lie. Liam had been standing right there. He had seen everything. But she also understood something in that moment that made her heart sink. The teachers were not asking her questions because they wanted to know the truth. They were asking her questions because they already believed Adrian's story. They were just going through the motions. "I want to talk to Liam," Maya said. "He will tell you what really happened." The teachers exchanged glances. "Liam has already given his statement," Mr. Rodriguez said carefully. "And he says he did not see the incident clearly. He says everything happened very fast." That was not true either. Liam had been standing right there. He had seen Adrian push Maya. He had seen her fall. He had seen Adrian come at her again. But Maya understood that Liam had probably been threatened or pressured into changing his story. Adrian's friends had probably told him that if he did not say what they wanted him to say, they would make his life at school even worse than it already was. By the end of the day, the official story was set in stone. 4 wealthy boys said the same thing. They said Maya attacked Adrian without reason. They said they were innocent witnesses reporting what they had seen. They said they had nothing to gain from lying. Meanwhile, Maya was just a poor girl, a scholarship student, someone whose mother cleaned toilets, someone whose word meant nothing compared to the word of 4 wealthy students from important families. The decision was made before any real investigation could begin. Westbrook Academy's administration decided that Maya would be suspended pending a full inquiry. The inquiry, they assured her, would take approximately 2 weeks. In the meantime, She was not allowed to attend classes. She was not allowed to eat in the cafeteria. She was not allowed to be anywhere on campus except to come and go for meetings with the administration. Her mother found out that evening when the school called. She was devastated. She did not understand how this could have happened. Her daughter had never been in trouble before. She was a good student and a good person. And now she was being accused of attacking another student. That night, Maya sat in her bedroom and cried. Not tears of sadness, but tears of anger and frustration. She had done the right thing. She had stood up for someone who needed help, and this was how she was being repaid. 3 days after the incident in the cafeteria, Detective Sarah Moreno received a case file on her desk. She was a veteran investigator with 20 years of experience in the police department. She had seen countless cases where the wealthy used their power to silence the truth. She had learned to trust her instincts, and her instincts were telling her that something about this case did not add up. The file contained statements from 4 students all saying the same thing, all claiming that Maya had attacked Adrian without any reason, all describing her as violent and unstable. But Detective Moreno had learned long ago that when everyone tells exactly the same story, with exactly the same words, it usually means the story is not true. Real witnesses remember things differently. Real witnesses contradict each other. Real witnesses get details wrong. This feels staged, she said to her partner, Detective Marcus Chen, as they reviewed the file together. Too perfect, too clean, too consistent. The school has security cameras, Marcus suggested. If we can see the footage, we will know exactly what happened. Detective Moreno nodded. She immediately contacted Westbrook Academy's administration and requested all video footage from the cafeteria on the day of the incident. The school's security director, a nervous man named Mr. Patton, seemed reluctant to provide the footage. He kept making excuses, saying the cameras were being serviced, saying the footage had not been properly saved. But after Detective Moreno made it clear that she had legal authority to subpoena the video, Mr. Patton suddenly found the files that evening. Detective Moreno and Marcus sat in a small office at the police station and watched the security footage. What they saw made Detective Moreno's blood boil. The video showed everything clearly. It showed Adrian approaching Maya. It showed Adrian's friends surrounding her like predators circling prey. It showed Adrian and his friends mocking Liam, calling him names, pushing him around. It showed Maya walking over to help. It showed her standing up to Adrian with courage and dignity. And most importantly, it showed Adrian shoving Maya first. It showed him pushing her backward with both hands. It showed her struggling to keep her balance. The video then showed Maya defending herself, showing her moving with practiced skill, showing her sidestep Adrian's punch, showing his own momentum carry him forward into the table. The video clearly showed that Adrian had attacked first, and that Maya had only responded in self-defense. That is not an attack, Marcus said, shaking his head in disbelief. That is self-defense. Clear and simple self-defense. Detective Moreno was already writing notes. We need to interview everyone involved. We need to talk to the students who witnessed this. We need to find out why they lied. Over the next week, Detective Moreno and Marcus conducted interviews with each of the 4 boys. When confronted with the video footage, their stories began to crack. The first boy, Connor, immediately broke down and admitted that Adrian had told them all to say the same thing. He said Adrian had threatened to make sure they all got expelled if they told the truth. He said Adrian's father had connections with the school and could make it happen. The second boy, Marcus, tried to maintain the false story at first, but when Detective Moreno showed him the video and explained that he could face charges for filing a false report and obstructing justice, he also confessed he admitted that Adrian had come up with the plan. He said Adrian was furious that a poor girl had talked back to him, furious that she had not been impressed by his wealth and power. The third boy, Daniel, cried during his interview. He said he felt terrible for lying. He said he had known it was wrong, but he was afraid of Adrian's power and influence. He was afraid that Adrian would turn his other friends against him. He was afraid that Adrian's father would find a way to punish him. Adrian himself was brought in for questioning. At first, he tried to maintain his story. He tried to stick to the lies that he and his friends had created. But when Detective Moreno showed him the video footage, when she explained that his friends had already admitted everything, his face went white. He realized that the game was over, that his lies were crumbling around him. Under the pressure of the questioning, Adrian finally broke down. He admitted that he had attacked Maya first. He admitted that he had planned to make up a story with his friends. He admitted that he had been angry because Maya had talked back to him, because she had not been afraid of him, because she had made him feel small and powerless. For the first time in his life, Adrian was facing real consequences. Detective Moreno then visited Maya at her home. She wanted Maya to know the truth. She wanted her to understand that the investigation had revealed everything. She wanted her to know that she had done nothing wrong. Maya's mother was in tears when she heard. Her daughter had been telling the truth all along. The school had been wrong to suspend her. The boys had been wrong to lie about her. And now, finally, the truth was coming out. Detective Moreno also informed the school administration about the investigation's findings. She explained that Adrian Matthews and his friends had lied, that they had attempted to obstruct justice, and that she was recommending that criminal charges be filed against them. The school's principal, Dr. Harrison, suddenly looked very uncomfortable. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He realized that he had believed the lies of wealthy students over the truth of a poor girl. Within days, news of the investigation spread through Westbrook Academy like wildfire. Students who had believed Adrian's story now knew the truth. The boys had lied. Maya had been innocent all along. The whispers and rumors that had been spreading through the school suddenly changed direction. Adrian Matthews' father, Richard Matthews, sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor of the Matthews building. Looking out at the city sprawling below him, his secretary had just told him the news. The police investigation had concluded, and his son was guilty. Adrian had lied. Adrian had attacked first. Adrian had orchestrated the entire false accusation, and now criminal charges were being filed against him. Richard felt something break inside his chest. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. He had spent his entire life building an empire, making money, accumulating power and influence. He had believed that money could solve any problem, that wealth could protect his family from consequences, that his status made him and his family above the rules that governed ordinary people. But he was wrong. The security footage was irrefutable. He had watched it himself, seen his own son attack an innocent girl, seen his son create a false narrative with his friends, seen his son lie repeatedly to cover up his crime, and most shamefully, he had believed his son without question. He had hired lawyers, he had threatened the school, he had put pressure on administrators, all to protect a lie. Richard called his son into his office. Adrian arrived with his head down, his bandages still visible on his face, trying to appear victimized. But when he saw his father's expression, he knew the game was over. "Look at me," Richard said quietly, his voice cold in a way Adrian had never heard before. Adrian looked up, and for the first time in his life, he saw disappointment in his father's eyes. Real, deep, soul-crushing disappointment. "I watched the video," Richard said. "I saw what you did. I saw how you attacked that girl. I saw how you and your friends lied about it. I saw how I believed you without question." Adrian's face turned white. "Dad, Do not speak," Richard interrupted. "I am not finished. I have spent my entire life teaching you that money makes us special, that our family is above everyone else, that we deserve special treatment, and I was wrong. Completely and utterly wrong." Richard stood up and walked to the window. Looking out at the city below, that girl, Maya, she showed more courage and character in one moment than I have shown in my entire life. She stood up to you to protect someone weaker. She defended herself when you attacked her, and then she faced false accusations with dignity. Meanwhile, my own son, with all the advantages money can buy, used his wealth to try to destroy an innocent person. "I was just defending myself," Adrian tried to say. "You are not defending yourself," Richard said, his voice rising. "The security footage shows that you attacked her first. The video shows that she was defending herself. The video shows that you were the aggressor. You and your father have been living in a bubble where the rules do not apply to us, where our money protects us from consequences. But that bubble just burst." Richard turned to face his son. "The police are filing charges against you. You will face the consequences of your actions. And before you think about trying to buy your way out of this, I want you to know something. I'm not going to help you. I am not going to hire a team of expensive lawyers to get you out of trouble. You made this choice and you will face it." Adrian's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, he was facing real consequences, real punishment. He could not buy his way out of this. His father was not going to protect him. What are you going to do? Adrian asked, his voice small and frightened. I am going to do the right thing, Richard said. I am going to apologize to Maya and her family. I am going to make sure they know that I take full responsibility for what my son did. I am going to ensure that Maya is reinstated at the school immediately, her suspension erased from her record, and I am going to provide compensation to her family for the suffering that my son caused them. Richard sat back down at his desk and began writing. I am also going to meet with the school administration and with Detective Moreno. I am going to tell them exactly what happened. I am going to tell them that I believed my son's lies, and that I used my wealth and influence to try to suppress the truth. I am going to accept responsibility for my own actions. That same day, Richard made an appointment to meet with Maya's mother. He went to her home, a small apartment in a working-class neighborhood, nothing like the mansions where Richard lived. He knocked on the door with genuine humility, something he had never felt before in his life. When Maya's mother opened the door, she recognized him immediately. Her face went hard, preparing for confrontation, but Richard's expression was different. He was not there as a powerful man looking down at someone beneath him. He was there as a father seeking forgiveness. I owe you and your family an enormous apology, he said, his voice breaking slightly. My son lied about your daughter. My son attacked her, and then I, in my arrogance, believed him without question. I used my influence to try to protect him, to try to silence the truth. I made everything worse, and I am deeply, deeply sorry. Maya's mother did not know what to say. She had expected threats or manipulation, but instead she heard genuine remorse. Your daughter is brave and honorable, Richard continued. She did the right thing even when it cost her everything. She stood up to my son to protect another student. And my family repaid that courage with lies and false accusations. I am here to make it right, however I can. The story exploded across social media like a bomb going off. Within hours of Richard Matthews releasing the security footage and his official statement, the video had been viewed millions of times. News outlets picked it up, newspapers published articles about it, and the entire city was talking about what had really happened at Westbrook Academy. The narrative that everyone had believed just days before crumbled completely. The story of a violent poor girl attacking an innocent rich boy was revealed to be a complete lie. Instead, the truth came out. A wealthy boy had attacked a poor girl for standing up to him, and then he had lied about it and tried to use his family's money and influence to destroy her reputation. For the first time in her life, Maya experienced something she had not expected. Support. Overwhelming, unexpected support from complete strangers. Students at Westbrook Academy who had believed Adrian's lies now felt ashamed. They had participated in spreading rumors about Maya. They had avoided her in the hallways, they had whispered behind her back. And now they realized they had been part of an injustice. Teachers who had suspended Maya without properly investigating now had to confront their own biases. Dr. Harrison, the principal, issued a public apology. He acknowledged that he had allowed his preconceived notions about wealth and status to cloud his judgment. He admitted that he had not properly investigated the incident, and he apologized to Maya and her family for the harm that had been caused. The 4 boys who had participated in the lie faced serious consequences. Adrian was formally charged with assault and filing a false police report. His 3 friends were also charged with obstruction of justice and filing false reports. The school implemented new policies immediately. All students accused of bullying or violence would now have access to the security footage before any disciplinary decisions were made. Teachers would be required to participate in training about implicit bias and fair investigation procedures. Adrian's suspension was not just from school. His entire social world began to collapse. Friends who had thought he was powerful and important realized that he was just a boy who had gotten caught lying. They wanted nothing to do with him. The exclusive clubs his family belonged to began to distance themselves from the scandal, and the business partners of Richard Matthews started to question whether they wanted to continue working with someone whose son had done something so despicable. Meanwhile, Maya became something unexpected. She became a symbol of courage, a symbol of standing up to injustice, a symbol of integrity in the face of overwhelming pressure. News stations requested interviews with her. She politely declined most of them. She was not interested in fame or attention. She only wanted to go back to her normal life and finish her education. But she agreed to one interview with a local news channel, that promised to tell her story fairly and accurately. In that interview, Maya spoke about why she had stood up to Adrian in the first place. She explained that she had not done it because she was brave or heroic. She had done it because it was right. She said that Liam did not deserve to be bullied, and that no one deserves to be bullied, no matter how different they are or how vulnerable they are. She also spoke about the false accusations. She talked about how devastating it had been to be suspended, to be accused of something she did not do, to have her character attacked and her reputation destroyed. But she also said that she understood that Adrian and his friends were just products of a system that had never taught them about consequences or responsibility. They were taught that money could fix anything, Maya said in the interview. They were taught that rules did not apply to them, but rules apply to everyone, consequences apply to everyone, and character matters more than wealth. Those words went viral. People shared them on social media. Teachers shared them with their students as lessons about integrity and moral courage. Parents showed them to their children as examples of how to do the right thing, even when it is difficult. Richard Matthews also gave an interview. He was honest about his own mistakes and his own biases. He talked about how his wealth had blinded him, how he had raised his son to believe that money was a substitute for character. He announced that Westbrook Academy would receive a major donation to create an anti-bullying program and to provide counseling services for students who had experienced bullying. He also announced that Adrian would be required to participate in a restorative justice program. Adrian would have to work with a counselor to understand the impact of his actions. He would have to write a letter of apology to Maya. He would have to speak to school assemblies about the dangers of bullying and the consequences of lying. And he would have to volunteer at a community center that served low-income families. "My son made terrible choices," Richard said in his interview. "But I believe that people can change. I believe that even people who make serious mistakes can learn from them and become better. That is what I hope for Adrian. That is what I hope for all of us." The story of what had happened at Westbrook Academy began to be taught in schools as a case study of bullying, false accusations, and the importance of investigating claims carefully before making judgments. Maya's name was no longer associated with violence or lies. It was now associated with courage and integrity. She had become someone that other students looked up to, someone that teachers respected, someone that her community was proud of. 1 year had passed since the incident in the cafeteria, and Westbrook Academy was barely recognizable. The school had undergone a complete transformation, not just in policies and procedures, but in its fundamental culture and values. The new anti-bullying program that Richard Matthews had funded was now mandatory for all students. Teachers participated in monthly training sessions on how to identify bullying, how to investigate accusations fairly, and how to support both victims and perpetrators through restorative justice practices. Adrian Matthews sat in a small circle with 5 other students, a school counselor, and a facilitator from an outside organization that specialized in restorative justice programs. This was part of his ongoing work to understand and take responsibility for what he had done. The restorative justice program was designed to help young people who had committed harmful acts understand the impact of their behavior and develop empathy for those they had hurt. Instead of simply being punished and expelled from school, Adrian was required to face the consequences of his actions in a way that was both challenging and redemptive. "How do you feel about what happened?" the facilitator asked Adrian, looking him directly in the eye. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. A year ago, he would have lied or made excuses. A year ago, he would have tried to manipulate the conversation to make himself look good. But that Adrian was gone. He had been slowly dying over the past year as he faced real consequences and genuine accountability. "I feel ashamed," Adrian said quietly. "I hurt someone who was trying to help another person. I lied about it. I got my friends to lie for me. I tried to use my family's money and power to make the truth disappear. And all of it was wrong." The facilitator nodded. "What do you understand now that you did not understand before?" "That my money does not matter," Adrian said. "That my family name does not matter. That the only thing that matters is who I am as a person. And I was a terrible person." This was part of Adrian's journey toward genuine transformation. He had been working with a therapist for the past year, exploring the values that his parents had taught him, examining his own privilege and how it had made him cruel, learning how to develop real empathy and compassion. Meanwhile, Maya had returned to Westbrook Academy. Her suspension had been expunged from her record completely. The school had apologized to her publicly and privately. Teachers went out of their way to show her respect and support. She was no longer the invisible scholarship student. She was now someone that people looked up to, someone that other students came to for advice when they were facing bullying or unfair treatment. She had become an informal leader, a voice for justice and fairness in the school community. Liam, the disabled student who had been bullied, also transformed. He was no longer afraid to come to school. He had made new friends, he was doing well in his classes, and he had even joined the school's anti-bullying committee to help educate other students about the impact of bullying. Richard Matthews was also a changed man. He had started spending more time with his son, not as a wealthy businessman trying to buy his way out of problems, but as a father genuinely interested in helping his son become a better person. He had also started volunteering at the community center, where Adrian was required to work, serving low-income families and seeing firsthand the reality of lives very different from his own. He had learned that money could not buy character or integrity. It could not buy his way out of mistakes. It could not make problems disappear, but it could be used for good. It could fund programs that helped people. It could support institutions that worked for justice and fairness. One afternoon, almost exactly 1 year after the incident, Adrian asked to meet with Maya. They sat together in a quiet garden on the school campus. Surrounded by flowers and trees, I wrote you a letter, Adrian said, handing her an envelope with shaking hands. I have been writing it for months, trying to find the right words to express how sorry I am. Maya opened the letter and read it. It was long and detailed. Adrian had written about every step of his journey toward understanding and accountability. He had written about how he had lied, how he had hurt her, how he had tried to destroy her reputation. He had written about his own shame and how he was working to become a better person. When she finished reading, Maya looked up at Adrian. She could see that he was genuinely changed, not because he had been forced to, but because he had finally understood what mattered. Thank you, Maya said quietly. I accept your apology. They did not become friends. The hurt was too deep for that, but they became something else. They became two people who had learned hard lessons about justice, accountability, and the possibility of change. They became living proof that people could grow and transform when they were willing to face the truth about themselves. Years later, both of them would look back on that difficult time as a turning point in their lives. For Adrian, it was the moment when he finally understood that privilege came with responsibility, that true strength came from integrity, not from money or status. For Maya, it was the moment when she understood that standing up for what is right, even when it costs you everything, is never wasted. Her courage had changed not just her own life, but the lives of many other students who would benefit from the new culture of respect and fairness that had been built at Westbrook Academy. And for Richard Matthews, it was the moment when he finally understood that the most important legacy he could leave his son was not money or power, but the values of honesty, compassion, and genuine care for other human beings. The story of what happened at Westbrook Academy became a lesson for schools across the country. It showed how quickly injustice could occur when people allowed wealth and status to influence their judgment. It showed how important it was to investigate claims carefully and to believe all witnesses, not just the wealthy ones, and most importantly, it showed how restorative justice programs could help young people learn from their mistakes and become better versions of themselves.